the role is really to nurture it and to take it forward and to try very hard not to break that trust. I still want to be I still want to resonate. I want my consumers to resonate with what I'm putting out.
Yeah.
I want that to be effective. It needs to move the needle on the brand. It needs to move the needle on the business. If you want to achieve effectiveness, being safe is is better.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is, in fact, I believe that marketing. I truly believe that marketing is one of the hardest disciplines
No, I agree.
to crack and to get right. Marketers miss out that their core job is also to tell the company story. It's not just to market your product.
Yeah.
Most days, it feels, Anis, that you wasted time in mindless scrolling. Yeah, it's a little bit like saying, cars will never replace horse
Yeah.
carriages. I'm sure that discussion happened at one point in time. There is this always this argument that happens between generations that, hey, you know what?
Welcome to Masters Decoded Season 4.
What was your wake-up call? What got you to all of this?
Honestly,
How do you overcome self-doubt?
so first and foremost,
How do you do that emotional quotient? How do you bring that up?
Today, I'm really excited to bring back Masters Decoded Season 4 podcast. It's an amazing new journey, and I'm really thankful to each one of you who've been on the Season 3 journey with me. I'm sure you've seen some of the amazing guests coming on Season 3, and I can promise you that our endeavor is that Season 4 is bigger and better than Season 3. So today's first guest on Season 4 is Amit Doshi. Amit Doshi is the CMO of Britannia, and he has some amazing perspectives about marketing, social, and the entire world of digital. And if you are a marketer and looking to build a career and make an impact in 2024, I would recommend you not to miss this show. So without much further ado, let me get on with it. Hi Amit, welcome to Masters Decoded Season 4 podcast. Really glad to have you on the show today.
Hey, Anis, great to see you, and I'm glad that I'm here talking to you.
No, Amit, it's an equal pleasure. It's been almost after 2 years you and I are connecting. And when I looked at when you changed jobs, I was very happy for you. First of all, congratulations. At that time, we couldn't have a conversation. But you've joined one of the most iconic brands, which has many, many sub brands, which many of us have grown up eating many of those products as children and as grown ups as well. So what do you have to say about joining such an iconic brand specifically?
Yeah, it's been very interesting, Anis, and look, it's as you said, it's a brand that even I grew up consuming, and to have the opportunity to work on the complete set of brands that so many Indians love so much, and they're a part of their everyday lives. It's a great honor and a privilege. I mean, every day is exciting and full of surprises.
So Amit, you coming back to Britannia is amazing, but we often time in this podcast we've spoken about people pivoting in careers, people moving in different careers and taking a different route. But you moved from a CPG setup or an FMCG setup to a tech and leading a tech brand in India like Lenovo, and then coming back to CPG, right? And it's completely pivoting in different industry altogether. What's been your experience in when you think about selling a tech product versus selling an FMCG or a CPG product, right? You've seen any shift in your own mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. See, look, Anis, there are some things that remain the same, and then there are quite a few which are very different.
Yeah.
And as marketers, and as people who are running businesses in general, I feel that we tend to overcomplicate things. And but if you look at it at the heart of the matter, it's a very very simple trusted transaction
Yeah.
that's happening between a consumer and a brand.
Yeah.
And what only is, and what's different perhaps is the context.
Yeah.
What's different is the consumption cycles. What's different is how are people going about deciding on which brand do they buy in a specific category. Those are perhaps some of those differences and nuances. However, what remains very, very similar to most categories and businesses is the foundation on which great brands are built on. There is a basic elementary promise, which is about quality and delivery of what the brand is promising. And then of course there are areas where a brand may or may not be able to positively
Yeah.
influence the image, and the self image of the consumer.
Yeah.
So it's very, very simple. It's really about what does the brand do uh, for a consumer's life,
Yeah.
and the second is about how does the brand make them feel about
Sure.
themselves.
Sure.
And if you were to look at the sum total of these two things, that's pretty much marketing for me in a nutshell. Am I offering you something that you need? Am I doing it well? Am I living up to the promise? And finally, how does it make you feel about yourself in an individual context, and at times in a social context? And to me, that's really a very, very simple construct, which we tend to overcomplicate. And finally, if you're able to boil all things down to these two things, what do I do? How do I make you feel? You'd realize that there are a lot more similarities between categories and businesses
Yeah.
than there are differences.
Yeah, and this point which you spoke about trust, right? Now, trust building, and both these brands or both these categories have been very different in per se, right? So, how do you
Hmm.
approach that trust in when it comes to marketing, right? How do you enforce in any communication, or at least not when I enforce is a very strong word, but how do you communicate that effectively that the individual who's going to be consuming or who's going to be engaging with you or with your brand per se is able to trust you, is able to trust your brand, is able to trust everything what you have to offer, so that they can blindly or basically start consuming what you have to offer.
Look, 99 out of 100 times, Anis, trust, I don't think one can communicate trust.
Yep.
It's a little bit like relationships in life. Uh, Trust has to be earned.
Yep.
It's not something that you can expect the
Yes.
other person to implicitly and inherently offer
Yep.
from their side. And trust for brands like Britannia and Lenovo are built over years
Yes.
uh, and decades. So I don't think any marketer or any CMO at any life stage can say that they've been instrumental in solely building trust for the brand.
Yeah.
More often than not, we're playing the roles of custodians. We're standing on some of the great work that a lot of people have done before us, and the role is really to nurture it and to take it forward, and to try very hard not to break that trust. And trust is built over time through very, very simple tenets. First of all, trust is built uh, through belief that you're a competent brand. So if you believe that you are offering enjoyment to consumer, or if you believe that you're going to be offering reliability when it comes to, let's say, electronic devices, something that Lenovo is very famous
Yeah.
for, you can communicate that. But finally, it boils down to whether a consumer, uh, once they buy it, or once they hear from someone who's bought it, whether they've experienced what you've said.
Yeah.
So part of the trust building is in uh, saying stuff that's credible and then delivering to what you're saying. And if you're able to do that repeatedly over a long period of time, a really long period of time, you've got trust. And it's again a very, very fragile relationship,
Yes.
because it could take years to build trust, and it could take just one poor
Yeah.
experience to impact it
Yeah.
negatively.
Yeah, and we've seen that especially worldwide, how brands
Yeah,
collapse with one bad experience or with
yeah,
something which is, I will not say catastrophic, but brands have not done a good job of holding that situation well. But there's one thing which kind of, I still remember somebody posted in a conversation about Nikhil Kamath, conversation about with various influencers on the which he had recently, and you commented on it, and it kind of caught my attention. It's been ringing in my head. uh, and there was a comment about, hey, the creators are the best individuals who can build communities, and you posted something similar to it, that hey, if you know somebody, let me know, we are looking to hire. Now, the reason why I'm asking and bringing that point about is the entire focus on consumers, right? Now, community building is becoming a big piece as marketeers, as somebody who's the custodian of the brand. How do you think that shift in marketing versus engaging and building communities has changed in the last 4 or 5 years, specifically in India, more so?
yeah. It's changed dramatically, Anis. And if you look at how consumers are interacting with brands today,
Mm-hmm.
it's dramatically different.
Yep.
We were perhaps, a decade back, we were in a situation where social media was good to have. It was the thing to do. It was the new shiny thing in town.
Yeah.
But the reality of our lives today is that it's the fabric that we are all built into,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you can't wish that away.
Yeah.
In fact, I would look that as a positive opportunity
Mm-hmm.
for me to build brands if I'm able to do things the right way. If I'm offering stuff that's innovative,
Mm-hmm.
offering a differentiated experience, if I'm delivering to that promise consistently time and time again, the power of networks will only uh, accelerate the good news. And that's what is, I believe, a potential that most companies still haven't embraced. So if you look at the
Yeah.
startups, if you look at new businesses, they're far savvier at using social media,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because they're trying to build their reputation from grounds up. Their awareness is not as great, and it's an arbitrage they're able to play very well.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to large and established brands, the challenge that often occurs is that for most brands, like, let's say, let me take the example of a Lenovo,
Mm-hmm.
or brands at Britannia and so on. The awareness is very, very large
Yes.
already.
Yep.
So when the awareness is that high, the question that often comes to your mind is, what is the role social media is meant to play? Is it just meant to engage consumers?
Mm-hmm.
Is it meant to uh, crack that nice joke, or build win a
Yeah.
moment for the brand? What's really the job?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that all of that, to me, is extremely tactical in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentally, I look at social media as you said, as a community hall.
Yeah.
And it's really up to you how you want to be in that space. Do you want to be silent? Do you want to be interacting with people?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be making them smile, making them laugh?
Yep.
Do you want to make them feel something? Do you want to tell stories? It's not different from that. And I feel that's a skill that, while most marketers, especially in India, claim that they possess,
Mm-hmm.
I unfortunately believe that it's really just a tick
Yeah.
mark, and a check in the box that a brand must have a social handle.
Yeah.
I don't think enough brands, and especially large brands, are truly social.
Hmm.
And that's one place where there's a lot for heritage brands to learn from not just new age brands, not just brands who are insurgents and are driving a change in the categories that they operate in, but also to learn from
Yeah.
creators, because creators are brands by
Yeah.
themselves. And if marketers and brand teams are able to keep that agility of learning, there's a lot of cheese to be had.
So, if you want to give your fellow marketers or fellow CMOs, what does truly social mean? Like a 5 pointer or a 3 pointer? Do you want to share that?
Okay, here's, I'm again thinking, it's a very interesting question, Anis. I've thought about what it means to be truly social, but haven't really been able to
Probably you can
put
write a
it
book on
down.
it.
I don't know whether I have the expertise or
Yeah.
the chops to be able to do that, but I try.
Sure.
uh, I feel that the first thing that a brand really needs to understand when it comes to being truly social is have a very, very strong understanding of culture.
Hmm.
and uh,
Is it culture
and
of the company or
also
the culture of the community who's engaging with the brand?
culture. I don't want to use the term popular culture,
Okay.
but the prevailing culture.
Hmm.
What's the sentiment?
Hmm.
What are people consuming? What are they engaging with? What's involving them?
Yeah.
And it's ironical that I'm sure most of us, as much as we may not like to admit, spend hours, for example, being on reels and scrolling
Yeah.
through and smiling and engaging with that content and truly being immersed in those moments. But then we seldom apply it
Hmm.
to our own
Yeah.
brands, and ask ourselves, so if this is the world, that if this is the environment that I'm operating in, what should I be doing differently?
Okay.
And again, the playbook may keep changing, but I do believe at this point in time, it's the age of the creators.
Mm-hmm.
People are interested in following people,
Yeah.
not brands.
Mm-hmm.
Brands that command true followership are rare.
Yeah.
And if you're able to find a way of loosening up on your codes and working with creators to have content that people want to spend that extra second on,
Sure.
or extra fraction of a second on,
Sure.
you're truly social.
Hmm.
That's one. The second is to actually, and when I say, hey, loosen up,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really about how you would be in a gathering of
Yeah.
people, right? So are you able to uh, shed a little bit of skin that you've gathered over the years?
Mm-hmm.
uh, Hold your personality, because people see through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Hold your personality, be authentic, but rather than uh, operating in a paradigm where you are talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
if you start speaking with them,
Yeah.
that's really, I would say, what brands need to do, and what being truly social means.
Hmm.
It's it's about being vulnerable, it's about being open,
Mm-hmm.
it's about being in the moment, in the culture,
Yeah.
and it's about trying. It's like a stand-up comic, Anis, who goes up,
Yeah.
and the world of stand-up comedy again is very, very intriguing for me, because from the time, you at the face of it, you look at a talented comic and you feel, you
Drawn to
feel
them.
uh, in the awe of
Yeah.
them. But if you listen to most of their stories, it's a little bit like, it's a lot of trial and error, it's a lot of practice, it's a lot of rigor, but it's always about showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about showing up with a set, uh, understanding the response of the audience to that set,
Yeah.
improvising that set, changing it a little bit, and then once you found your tone, once you found your rhythm, doubling down on it.
Hmm.
And brands really need to learn how to take the stage and be okay with going up there, not succeeding a few times, till the time they really find their space and rhythm.
Yeah, interesting. No, thanks for sharing that, Amit. Definitely, people who will be listening will be taking down notes. But you know, just pivoting this back on you as an individual. Now, you've been in marketing, and you've been in marketing role for quite a while. How have you feel that your role has evolved or changed? If you look at specifically the last decade, how have you feel? Do you think what are the new tools, techniques, or things you would have to bring into your own armor to be successful and to do your job better? What had you had to? How had you to evolve as part of this entire process?
Yeah, so I've thought about it quite a bit, and I'm still forming my, like my firm views on it.
Sure.
But I do believe that I I feel that I've had to. So the first 10 years, look, the first 10 years was really about learning the basics,
Mm-hmm.
learning the ropes,
Yeah.
and if you know the CPG industry well and closely,
Yep.
it's perhaps the best school
Mm-hmm.
to learn sales and to learn marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you also get involved and attached to processes
Yeah.
and systems
Mm-hmm.
of approaching
Yeah.
problems. And they're very, very solid frameworks
Yeah.
which have stood the test of time.
Yeah.
But there is an issue with that, and which is that there is there is also this risk of becoming dogmatic
Mm-hmm.
about how a problem can be solved.
Yep.
And that's something that I've had to constantly challenge. Is there a different way of doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a more efficient way of doing it? Is there a more impactful way of doing it? You've got to build this habit of questioning yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great place for conviction in marketing, but there's also a place for you to constantly query and ask
Yeah.
yourself uh, about ways of doing things. And I'll give you an example. So when I rejoined Britannia a couple of years back, one of the things we told ourselves was that we want to become a creative powerhouse,
Nice.
that we have the potential to be.
Hmm.
And for that, uh, it was very evident that what had got us to the place where we were wasn't enough
Mm-hmm.
moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are plenty of reasons for that.
Yep.
One is that if I look at the talent mix, not just within the team internally, but also the team externally,
With.
which is our agency
Yeah.
partners, there was a certain profile to that.
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to the question, Anis, uh, if the external environment is changing, right? The external environment calls for a change within,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore we had to change the profile of partners that we were. So there was always space for the partners who had got us so far,
Yeah.
but we also needed to widen the team and make it more diverse
Yeah.
as talent,
Mm-hmm.
as a pool of talent, creative talent that would take us farther.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we had to do was to make the creative talent pool more diverse.
Okay.
It meant including new agency partners into the ecosystem who who weren't the kind of people who we had worked with earlier, or within the team getting people who came from different industries and who were not just CPG.
Hmm.
So the first thing, as I said, I've had to open up myself to time and again is diversity of thought.
Nice.
That's one. The second thing, again, as simple as it may sound, it's very difficult to implement. It's one thing to say, "Hey, we need diversity of thought,"
Yeah.
but to implement it is a completely different
Yeah.
challenge. Right. The second issue that you often face is when you have a set of diverse people coming together.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that diversity?
Hmm.
And to believe that there's not just one person in the room who has all the answers, or there's not just one team who has all the answers,
Hmm.
but an idea could come from anywhere in the room.
Agreed.
It could come from a very young creative, it could come from someone who's running a factory,
Yeah.
has no connection with the creative business. It could come from it could come from someone who's spent. It could be a social media idea
Mm-hmm.
coming from someone who's spent 4 decades in traditional advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to be able to hear ideas from everywhere, give them all a level playing field, and then make a choice on which idea to go for. So to build a culture where all ideas have a level playing field is again very very difficult in a large ecosystem. So that's the second thing I've had to challenge, and the third is then to be able to come together
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that that one winning idea gets support from everyone.
Okay.
So it could be, let's say, an idea that a lowland task, for example,
Mm-hmm.
came up with in the Britannia ecosystem. And all of us as a group believe that that's the idea that one has to go for.
Mm-hmm.
Then how does one rally not just the internal team, but also all external agency partners to come together and double down on that one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Again, requires commitment because very often incentives are based on
That is
initiatives.
correct.
Incentives are rarely based on collaboration.
Right.
And if you're able to shift that a little bit, it can have a transformative impact on creative culture, for example.
Hmm.
So those are two that come straight to my mind.
Okay. So, Amit, you spoke about a couple of things, and I want to kind of double click on them further. And as your role in that specific space. So, one is you mentioned about this one winning idea. Now, you may be getting 20,000 ideas every week, every month, every quarter,
Yeah.
right? That thought that this is that winning idea, distilling that out of the 20,000 ideas, it's more of a art, less of a science, right? So how does one get to that one winning idea? Because it may be a completely a losing idea also at the end of it, right, if it doesn't work. And there's a lot
Yeah.
riding on your shoulder as a CMO, that hey, you have to make it winning. So how do you pick that winning idea?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's $1 million question, right? I hope I knew the absolute exact answer to that.
Mhm. Is it more a
Uh,
gut?
it's a lot of gut.
Hmm.
It's a lot of gut.
Yeah.
It's a lot of gut. But again, it's not just gut. Over a period of time, you can develop your own heuristics, your own set of principles that if you stick to consistently could get you to a place where you're putting out more unexpected, more unconventional stuff than usual. So one of the things that you may have heard is if everyone's zigging, you zag,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's easy to say, but then to back it up
Yep.
is difficult. So it's not that it's completely gut, but if as a group you believe that I will not put out stuff that's traditionally conventional, I still want to be I still want to resonate. I want my consumers to resonate with what I'm putting out.
Yep.
I want that to be effective. It needs to move the needle on the brand. It needs to move the needle on the business. There's absolutely no questioning those ethos.
Yep.
But too often, the belief is that if you want to achieve effectiveness, being safe is is better.
Yep.
And that's not always true.
Yeah.
In fact, globally, if you look at a lot of studies that a lot of marketing researchers have done
Yeah.
on on the impact of creativity, the more there is a very clear correlation between business and brand outcomes and how highly indexed these pieces of work were on creativity. So first, you've got to tell yourself that it's okay to take a creative risk. Being safe is not equal to effective. And then lay down those very very simple principles that that for example, every opportunity to create content or a campaign is an opportunity to take the move the brand forward. Now if you ask yourself, am I doing that with everything that I am putting out, it's again a simple set of questions. All of everyone in the room knows the answer. How honest how honest you can be to yourself is more often than not the answer. Not more often than not is the answer. But coming to this question on gut versus
Heuristic, yeah.
science, yeah, I think, look, it's what is gut eventually. I mean, you're a man of data, and data science. What is gut? Gut is nothing but knowledge that's available, at the push of a trigger.
Yes.
Right now, let's talk about artificial intelligence. Large language models, and I
Yeah.
mean, you live in that world.
Yeah.
Uh, what is the Chat GPT experience? It's not coming. It's coming at an instance.
Yes.
There's obvious creativity involved,
Yeah.
but it's sitting on top of
L-
layers of
Data and knowledge.
yeah layers of data, layers of information,
Yep.
layers of knowledge,
Yep.
sometimes explicit, sometimes implicit.
Yep.
And then, because as humanity we've coded a Chat GPT, we believe that's science. And because we do not understand our own uh, decision processes, we feel that it's gut. So I don't think gut is as magical as it's made out to be.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for a young 19-year-old to have a gut instinct.
Yep.
They could have a gut instinct, and it could work, but I would call that a fluke, a flash in the pan.
Yep.
But a strong gut is acquired after many years of practicing and
Experiences.
learning
Yeah.
from successes and failures.
No, very well said, Amit. Today, that's the unfortunate part which is there right now amongst many young professionals where they feel that they can become a CMO. Well, you can become a CMO, nothing against it. And you may be successful as well. But to your point, that experience really helps you fight situations and fight scenarios which probably you may never be able to do it. And specifically in your industry, where there's so much of inherent knowledge and inherent experiences, to come up with that one winning idea, which this entire conversation started off, is going to be a tall order ask. I don't know if you agree to the statement which I just made. Like
Which is what you're saying.
somebody like
The
completely out
values
of
experience.
campus saying they'll become a CMO for a very large heritage brand. Is that possible?
But it's good to have a dream.
Yes.
I don't see anything wrong with
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's good to have the aspiration for it.
But the dream, is it possible today? The question is it today or is it in the future, right?
Yeah, that's again, yeah, that's a difficult one to say.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I think what people don't realize is, uh, let's say if you become a marketing leader, and for that matter, if you become a functional leader, it's not just about functional competence.
Yeah.
It's about looking, it's making good decisions day in and day out for a long period of time.
Yeah.
It's about how well you can switch contexts during a day. You could be having a one-on-one with a direct,
Yeah.
or with a peer, to then you could be in a new product development meeting,
Yeah.
to a communication meeting, to you could be fighting fire because there has been a shutdown in a factory somewhere.
Yeah.
or material hasn't reached, or look at the cost of raw material, and therefore what does it mean for your brand's pricing. So there's so much context that you're dealing with,
Yep.
and more often than not, unfortunately, marketing's made out into this really linear, very, it's looked in a really narrow corridor of just communication.
Agreed.
But most marketers spend, especially in the CPG industry, they don't spend more than one fourth of their time on communication. And that's what might be giving a lot of people this belief that it's easy to do marketing. In fact, I believe that marketing, I truly believe that marketing is one of the hardest disciplines
No, I agree.
to crack and to get right. Because it's, when I'm, let's say, I'm not by any means saying that marketing is a superior skill or a competence, but the number of variables that you're dealing
Yeah.
with are way too many. And if you are going to be operating in a silo, and I've made that mistake in my early years, and to say that, hey, what I'm putting out is going to be the magic bullet, is hardly ever going to be true. You could have a great piece of advertising, but if your product's not standing up to competition,
Yeah.
if it's not delivering to what it's promised, if it's priced out in the market, if it's not competitive, if it's not offering the value that it's meant to deliver, you could have made, created huge brand buzz,
Yeah.
but it's not available at a store near them, or it's not available on the QCOM platform that you're most familiar
Yeah.
with. There are so many variables. I could be crafting, the best story for my, let's say, for a technology gadget, for a device, but the salesman who's selling on the floor at a Reliance retail store or at a Chroma store is not conveying the same story. There's leakage.
Yep.
No amount of savvy advertising can cover up for that.
Agreed.
So the mistake I think people make is to overestimate the impact that marketing makes,
Yeah.
or marketing as we know it makes.
Yeah.
But if you broaden your horizon and say, hey, look, marketing is not, communication is just one facet of marketing. And if you're able to either influence the rest, or are able to drive the rest in an equal measure, your chances of success and growth are higher.
Amit, you said few things, and this was one of the question which I wanted to ask. As a marketer now, as a head who's basically driving a brand and multiple brands, brand portfolio, I would say, in a many different ways. And you said that there are many different variables, internal and external. How do you stay ahead of it? How do you stay on top of it? You spoke about this mindless scrolling, but like, just like, what's in trend in the digital space, what's in trend in the social, what's happening within the company, within your plant, within the sales. There's so much. How do you stay ahead of it or on top of it?
Uh, they're both right, internal and external. When it comes to internal, there is no substitute for connecting, staying connected with people, being on the road,
Yeah.
traveling, visiting the stores, and in today's time also visiting your own e-com pages
Yeah.
to know how your products are doing, or to visit factories. So there's again no substitute for that, and more often than not, marketers miss out that their core job is also to tell the company story. It's not just to market your product.
Yeah.
Today consumers want to uh, know you, and know the
Yeah.
brand in the fullest manner possible.
Yeah.
uh, certainly the I would say the top end of the consumer set in India. So it's important for marketers to have this broad-based
Yeah.
awareness of what's happening internally. Equally, marketers need to have tremendous curiosity, and I say that I've said that quite a few times in my previous conversations, that do you have the appetite and the curiosity to go down as many rabbit holes as possible?
Hmm.
So I do believe that mindless scrolling does help.
Yeah. Sure,
Yeah,
it does.
because because in a 10-minute window or in a 15-minute window,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting, it's like walking the streets.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being at a college campus.
Yeah.
It's like, it's being at today's workplace
Mm-hmm.
in some part of the country. It's about knowing what political beliefs are. It's and it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's really really powerful to understand where the world's headed, and if I can get it not through a filtered medium,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say a news broadcast, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, it has its own
Yeah.
place, but to get it straight from people, there's no substitute for that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a lot has been said about social media and the internet, uh, and how, and the downsides of it. But I've always believed that internet and social media are mere mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, at times you may not like the color of that mirror
Yeah.
and it may be black,
Yeah.
but it is what you're putting out
Hmm.
as a community. So that's how I do that. The other trick that I employ is, if something catches my interest, then I would go down really deep into it.
Hmm.
It could be anything. It could be, let's say, let's say, jazz music,
Hmm.
or it could be a sport,
Hmm.
or it could be a podcast. And if I think it's interesting, and if I feel that it's opening a facet of my mind that has so far not been challenged, I'd go down on it. And you know most days it feels, Anis, that you wasted time
Mm-hmm.
in mindless scrolling, but somehow it works for me because there are situations and opportunities where those dots do connect every once in a while.
Interesting. Yeah, just building on this, and you spoke about creativity as a skill, and something which we spoke. You touched upon it a little bit. Now, creative as an entire stream or a concept is getting challenged with a lot of AI and technology, like mid journeys, and
Yeah,
people started creating videos now, 3-second
yeah,
videos to start off with, right? I'm seeing some movies actually good storylines, right? 12,
yeah,
12, 15-minute videos getting created using AI, Unreal Engine, and all of that.
yeah.
And it's fascinating. And people who, and there were a lot of conversations about AI not going to replace creativity and all of that. Now that is actually getting challenged, those thought process. So where do you think this entire creative space is evolving and would evolve to?
Yeah, it's a little bit like saying, cars will never replace horse
Yeah,
carriages. I'm sure that discussion happened at one point in time.
definitely.
And if can you imagine today doing a television spot without the production sophistication that exists, or the editing sophistication that exists? Can you imagine
No,
doing a print ad on, by an illustrator using a sketch pen on paper?
don't think so.
Uh, yeah, so I mean, if at some point in time Photoshop became a way of life,
Yeah.
a typewriter became a way of life before that, I think it's repetitive in nature, Anis, that every time there is a disruption, there is resistance to embrace it.
Hmm.
And only when you embrace, and everything has its
Yeah.
downsides and upsides. So, like, I mean, I grew up in an era, most people who start their careers in CPG start their career in sales.
Hmm.
And, you're doing the beats much like a regular salesman,
Yeah.
trying to learn the ropes, irrespective of which MBA campus you come from.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, we would go store by store and we would have like this report in our hand, and we would, mark out,
Mhm.
hey, I went to this store, these were the SKUs that were present, this was the stock level available, so on and so forth. At the end of it, sum total everything into say, hey, this was the day's sale.
Yeah.
after visiting, let's say, 40 stores or 50 stores. Today, all of that happens on a PDA. It happens on a smartphone. Now, there is this always this argument that happens between generations that, hey, you know what, that time there's always this notion of, or this tendency of being romantic about the time that you grew up,
Yes, I agree.
right?
ये हमारे जमाने में ये हुआ
So
करता था.
हमारे, सो हम तो ऐसे जाते थे, हम तो हर एक दुकान पे खड़े रहते थे. But the more we sound like that, the more repetitive it is.
Yeah.
So okay, but coming back to the question, what is the role of AI? I feel, I personally feel that, like most new technologies, you've got to be responsible about using them.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very excited about the possibilities, because the ability to do stuff faster, more efficiently, sometimes even cheaper, and at like factory scale, is amazing.
Yeah.
Is amazing. The question is, will you know how to use it or not? I can't at this point in time say that, hey, no, I do not want to use a calculator
Yeah.
because I love the abacus. So, the question is, do you know how to use it or don't know how to use
Yeah.
it? So that's how I see it. I'll give you a couple of examples. We've been experimenting a lot with AI at Britannia over the last year.
Nice.
And we made this really beautiful piece of content around the Independence Day,
Wow.
where through our campaign we wanted to tell stories of freedom fighters who we may not have known of or heard from.
I've seen that what you're
And
talking about, but yeah, why
you've
don't you?
seen that,
Yeah.
right? Now, the when the freedom fighters, if you had to de-age them, it was all AI generated.
Yeah.
Now, to be able to pull off a project of that stature and that scale without AI would have been a huge impact on both cost and time.
Yeah.
But if you're respectful of the process, if you're respectful of who and how you're representing, I feel that it's a great tool.
Nice.
We've always moved forward with technology and the efficiency that it brings with it.
Interesting. So talking about possibilities, and probably that's one of the last question I have. What are you most excited about in 2024?
I'm most excited about working with the talent at Britannia. It may
Nice.
sound like a plug, but that's truly what I'm most excited
Sure.
about. We have a marketing team that's absolutely brimming with energy, and I'd like to believe world class talent, and to be in the room with them, uh, to be uh, to be playing different roles at different points in time. Sometimes playing the sounding board, sometimes playing a a partner in the process. Once in a while, having the opportunity to provide a coaching input or two. But that's what I'm most excited about. I think the teams have over the last 2 years shown tremendous creativity and learning agility
Nice.
to put stuff out there, which is getting noticed. People are talking about the Britannia creative process and creative content in fresh light. And just to give you an example, uh, Economic Times Brand Equity
Yeah.
does something called the Digi Plus
Yes.
Awards. Now, again, there's always this skepticism about industry awards and so on. But to me, it's a level playing field, and it allows me to compare versus peers
Yeah.
and benchmark myself versus peers. That's why I love industry forums. And a couple of years back, this team set a goal for itself that they really wanted to drive digital acceleration. And at the annual DigiPlus Awards that just culminated,
Wow.
They're hosted very well, very nicely by the Economic Times brand equity team. Britannia was the digital brand of the year.
Wow.
And for a company of Britannia's stature and legacy to also show that they can be not just with it, but ahead of it is tremendously
Very interesting.
exciting for me.
Very interesting. Now, on that note, best of luck for 2024, Amit. And congratulations to have built such an amazing team. And we look forward to more such creative and digital products coming out of Britannia's table. So look forward to that. And thank you for taking your precious time out. I know you have a busy schedule at the start of 2024. So thank you for taking time out.
Thank you, Anis. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and we must catch up in person in
Definitely.
2024.
Definitely. Look forward to it.